Uncovering the hidden pyramids of Egypt. Does the Egyptian desert still hold secrets about the ancient civilization that lived there? Is there more to learn about their lives? Are there still more pyramids waiting to be discovered? Every Egyptologist dreams of discovering a pyramid with a perfectly intact tomb. You would have thought that in the mid-21st century, archaeologists would have made all the big discoveries they were going to find. But you would be wrong. Dashur lies 15 miles south of Cairo on the west bank of the Nile. It is the site of an ancient royal cemetery and home to the Bent Pyramid, the Red Pyramid, and the Black Pyramid. In 2017, it became the site of a newly discovered pyramid dating back over 3,700 years. In April of that year, workers in a large quarry stumbled across blocks of finely cut limestone hidden in the sand. Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities sent Dr. Adel Okasha and his team to excavate. They discovered a passage which led to an underground complex. This was an ancient tomb. The classic pyramid-shaped upper section was missing, but the underground structure was all there. It's not unusual for a pyramid to be missing its outer shell. A lot of pyramids were built from mud brick, which were then encased in limestone. Over the years, the limestone would be stolen bit by bit to reveal the mud bricks. These would usually disintegrate over time, but it was the hidden part of the pyramid, the underground chambers that held the secret corridors, tombs, and treasures. The archaeologists found a passage way deep into the ground. There were stairs leading to an underground complex and the heart of the pyramid. The most exciting discovery was that the burial chamber was still sealed with a 10-ton stone. These rocks acted as giant locking systems. It would have been impossible to move. It took modern-day machinery 3 days to shift it. When they did, their hopes of finding a treasure trove like Tutankhamun's came to nothing. The tomb had been raided. How was this possible? The only things left were a few bones and a decorated wooden canopic box with hieroglyphics. This box would have held 4 jars, each containing the mummified lungs, liver, heart, and intestine, but they were all missing. They also found a wooden anthropoid coffin lid. That's a type of coffin shaped like a person. There were no passageways into the tomb other than by lifting the huge stone. They had stumbled across the site of an ancient mystery crime scene. Who had been interred here, and where had their treasure gone? This was not the first pyramid found that had been plundered. In fact, so far, most tombs that archaeologists discovered had been raided. The pyramids were built to allow the pharaohs to become gods and merge with the sun. The Great Pyramid of Giza is the most famous. It is the only one of the 7 wonders of the world still standing. It holds the record for being the tallest building in the world for the longest time, nearly 4,000 years. Made of over 2 million stones, it towers over Big Ben and the Statue of Liberty. This pyramid is 500 years older than the most recent discovery. It too would have had a white limestone covering which would be dazzling in the sunshine. You could imagine people thinking their pharaoh was part of the sun. The pyramid was built for Khufu. His body was preserved in salt, embalmed with oil, then covered in jewels before being wrapped in linen. The body was kept in the most inaccessible part of the pyramid. In Khufu's case, this was in a room high up in the body of the pyramid. You would have had to walk up the grand gallery, which would lead to a tunnel sealed with a huge stone like the newly discovered pyramid. The first records of Khufu's burial chamber being opened are from 1,000 years ago. The mummy and treasure were missing. The only thing remaining was a granite sarcophagus. The pyramids housed great treasure, but advertised to the world where it was found. The temptation must have been too great for desperate grave robbers, so some pharaohs built decoy pyramids. The Black Pyramid in Dashur was also once covered in gleaming white limestone. Over the years, it too had been picked away to reveal mud bricks that have hardened and decomposed. But underneath, it is a complex labyrinth of tunnels and dead ends to confuse robbers and keep the treasure safe. Tunnels were blocked with huge stones to make it impossible to break in. It was built by King Amenemhat III, who died in 1814 BC, but he was not interred here. His wives, however, were all with their treasures. All the confusing twists and turns didn't stop the plunderers. The tombs were ransacked, perhaps by someone who knew where to look for the treasure and how to get at it. The tombs were so secure and so complex that all the evidence points to the criminals being those who were trusted with the last rites of the person who had passed on. The treasure was immense, and that made the temptation great. But it couldn't just be sold on. Money wasn't in use, and trying to shift a pharaoh's golden death mask was not easy. The thieves may have exchanged the goods with higher-ranking officials who would be able to melt the gold down. Priests liked the finer things in life, and some may have given in to their greed. They had good jobs and privileged lives, but may not necessarily have believed in the religion they preached. They may have been paid off to look the other way while those who sealed the tombs walked off with the sacks filled with treasure. The tombs were never expected to be opened, so who would ever know? That may explain what happened to the treasure, but who was the newly discovered pyramid built for? It wasn't a decoy, as a few bones had been found. 2 years of excavations allowed archaeologists to piece together the hieroglyphics and coffin lid and come up with an answer. This was not the resting place of a prince of Egypt, but a princess. Hieroglyphs in the tomb say she was the daughter of a king. Her name may have been Princess Hatshepsut, daughter of Pharaoh Amenemhat, who had lived during Egypt's Middle Kingdom between 2030 and 1650 BC. Her father's name is carved in the tomb, which led many people to think this may have been his decoy tomb as he was interred close by in Dashur. This was a thriving, forward-thinking society. Women had equal rights in inheriting and property rights, which is why you would have women pharaohs. During this period, they used to write to tell stories. The most famous one is the tale of the shipwrecked sailor. In this, a ship's captain returns from an unsuccessful mission and is worried about facing the pharaoh. But one of his crew tells him about being the sole survivor of a shipwreck during a previous voyage and how lucky he is to be alive. They had mastered irrigation techniques, which meant larger harvests and so more wealth and less hunger. This was a pyramid designed for a king. Princess Hatshepsut must have been very important and may have been marked out as heir to the throne, but died young. Her coffin had been opened to remove the jewels from her body. We think the Egyptian people of this period worshipped their pharaohs as gods on earth, but if the tombs were plundered so soon after they had passed away, there was no real respect for them. The people who should have been helping them to move on to the next world were stealing from them. Princess Hatshepsut's coffin was painstakingly pieced together. It revealed the beautiful face of a woman wearing a Hathor wig, which was the hairstyle of the day and a powerful symbol of fertility. Egyptologists say the anthropoid coffin showed the idealized, perfect version of the body. It's how they would want to be remembered and seen in the afterlife. While the Middle Kingdom era was a time of good fortune, towards the end Egypt was hit by famine and political unrest. This may be what drove Hatshepsut's people to rob her grave. Her tomb was one of the last to be built in this style. Soon after, pharaohs were laid to rest in the Valley of the Kings to stop their tombs being raided, but this didn't do the trick either. When we see the treasures that came out of Tutankhamun's tomb, it gives us some idea of what had been plundered from the great pharaohs and their families. So much history has been lost. There may be many more tombs to discover. Maybe even one that hasn't been plundered will show up sometime soon. Do you have a theory about how the tombs were robbed? Were Egyptians the greatest architects to have lived? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to like our video and subscribe so we can let you know about our latest content.